people stumbling into sin. But I hate people who are inventors of evil and then furthermore encouraging others to participate in that evil. So I won't be losing any lost sleep or any lost nights over the death of the wicked abomination Ozzy Osbourne.
Okay. All right. Birthright citizenship, Matt. Um, let's talk. It looks like that we had some more judges that have blocked Donald Trump's agenda to end the birthright citizenship. And it comes from some judges restricting in the third ruling since High Court's decision. And if you want to take this away for us.
Sure, sure, sure. Yeah, so with the whole birthright citizenship thing, and a significant legal decision, the U.S. District Judge Leo Sorakin has upheld a nationwide injunction blocking the Trump administration's controversial order to end birthright citizenship. This ruling, issued on July 25th, marks the third such decision since the Supreme Court's June ruling. The executive order aimed to revoke the automatic citizenship of for children born in the U.S. to non-citizen parents, a move that many argued violated the 14th Amendment. Judge Sorakin emphasized that a narrower injunction would not adequately protect the states involved in the lawsuits. He stated there is no workable, narrower alternative, highlighting the potential harm to U.S. born children based on their parents' immigration status. The case is poised to return to the Supreme Court, which will ultimately decide the constitutional implications of birthright citizenship and the extent of presidential authority on this matter. And I got to say that for me in this one, I do think that the 14th Amendment is extremely clear. And I'm really not a big fan of the idea of trying to dissolve birthright citizenship, no matter how much it has been taken advantage of and abused by the Biden administration. Whether people conspire to get into the United States in order to get married and then to have children, to be national-born citizens, this is just the way that it is. And I don't like this battle being fought when we've got so many. The Constitution matters, and when the Constitution is up for interpretation, okay, great, I'll admit that. But when it's not, such as Trump having a third presidency, or in this case, I don't want the left doing it. I don't want us doing it, and it just sickens me, to be honest with you, that this is the type of stuff that just makes my Trump meter go down. Because it's like, why, man? You got satanic, devil worshipping scum, pedophile pigs that are inside of the country, ruling us from behind the scenes, and yet we're going to be talking about trying to stop birthright citizenship. I mean, who
Anchor
cares, man?
babies.
It's just dumb.
Anchor
It's stupid.
babies.
Well, Alex, why? Why?
Well,
Why would this possibly
yeah.
matter?
Yeah. So, just really quick, the Ozzy Osbourne, I think it was because the reason why he died is because he was diagnosed with Parkinson's disease. I don't know if that was his final end, but nonetheless, it probably attributed to his passing. Closing that off. But yes, to answer why birthright citizenship, why this matters, and why I'm actually for it, Brother Matt, is again because it's supposed. I think the issue is not that Trump is ending birthright citizenship altogether, but he wants the interpretation done by the Supreme Courts because it is being abused. Because you have people coming in here illegally and just trying to have children purposefully in the country to create what's called anchor babies. Okay, when an illegal immigrant comes in here and has a baby in the United States, the baby becomes a birthright, has birthright citizenship. They become U.S. citizens, but now the parents are illegal, and it creates a problem for the immigration process. And so what happens is illegal people are here illegally, and what do? They go to they get food stamps, they get WIC, they get all the governmental programs and aid that is paid by who? The taxpayers. And so I think that it is right because that, I believe, was the 14th Amendment was done to discuss slaves during the slavery, and to make sure that the babies that were being born that were children of slaves were actually citizens. Okay, so they were to be counted citizens, and so it was a loophole within the amendment, and so that's what's being challenged, is that the 14th Amendment was not intended to allow illegal immigrants, not legal immigrants, not properly documented immigrants, but illegal immigrants. And that's what's being questioned. I think that's absolutely right to do. So,
Okay. Well, I don't want to spend forever on this, but I guess we're going to have to because, I mean, this is just sort of a big deal, right? We're going to read it. We're going to read the 14th Amendment. Now, it's not when the Supreme Court is going to be identifying what is the intent of the language, that's not to be negated by what the actual language is. The precise language,
sure.
if I create a contract between you and me and the language is accidental, you're not able to litigate the intent of the language of the contract. Okay, the language is what speaks for itself, and it's their responsibility at that time period during being our founding fathers, knowing who we're up against when it was Great Britain, and the arguing forces amongst the base of the Republicans and Democrats at that time, in order to forecast in the future what people would argue about the intent of the law. So this is how it is written: all persons born or naturalized in the United States, and subject to the jurisdiction thereof, are citizens of the United States. Period. Okay? So that language right there, this is not the New King James. This is not the King James. This isn't the NLT. All right? They chose to make a decision in order to put into law
legislation
and to ratify it that all persons born, okay? That's it. We don't even have to continue reading. Are subject to the jurisdiction thereof and citizens of the United States. And that's okay, right? Let's continue reading, though, because it will be further reinforced, all right? And of the state wherein they reside. No state shall make or enforce any law which shall abridge the privileges or immunities of the citizens of the United States. Great. Okay. Nor shall any state deprive any person of life, liberty, or property without due process of law, nor deny any person within its jurisdiction the equal protection of the law. Okay. Representatives shall be apportioned among the several states according to their respective numbers. We don't have to go there. But Article 1, this is specific. Okay? All persons born or naturalized in the United States. They could have wrote within that language all citizens who parents were born in the United States or came in through a legal process and then therefore were born in the United States, okay? But they didn't. So we don't get to litigate this in the courts, right? What we can do is pass another amendment. Okay? And then that amendment needs to be ratified by the states. If we say that we're patriots, and that's why we love the United States, because that's the process we should follow. Everything else is color of law. We don't follow this process. We don't have constitutional amendments. When was the last time we had a constitutional convention? Everyone's afraid to have a constitutional convention because of all the infighting and propaganda that, God forbid, what could be allowed in order to be amended and ratified. But this, if you say you're a patriot, if you say you love the United States of America, it's because of our process. And this is the process that has the delegation of powers and authorities that I love. So I don't care, right? Whoever thought the idea that they're going to be able, the Supreme Court's going to be able to interpret the intent has always been left-wing Marxist nonsense. And that's how we've got to where we are today, by interpretation of intent. The Constitution stands, ratify it or change it, and that's it from my perspective. And Donald Trump is an enemy of the Constitution of the United States when he tries to argue in favor of changing what is written by arguing the intent. No, I don't stand for it.
Yeah. So again, yeah, I hear you, Matt. And yes, I agree that it was litigated with that wording in a court of law. They're going to look at just the wording on whether or not they're just going to take the wording for the words as it was, and they will use that very thing that said, hey, it was litigated with this wording. this is the law. And in a lot of cases, that's going to be the end all be all to it. But when we look at the reason for the passing of this, it had to do with Dred Scott versus Sanford in 1857, and had ruled that African Americans, whether free or enslaved, were not U.S. citizens and had no rights under the Constitution. So the whole preface of the amendment, the context of it, was for African slaves. It was not intended and ratified into the United States Constitution for illegal immigrants, people that are here illegally, people that have no right to be here. Number one, they have no right to be here. Okay. And so I see that's the issue. And so, again,
do we get to make such arguments with the Bible? Do we get to go backtrack, or is what is written?
This is not written? The Bible. This is not gospel.
Then
this is not gospel. The Constitution is not gospel.
The framers of the United States founded things as Christians with an understanding of Scripture, and all of our laws are derived from the Bible to begin with. And the very idea of understanding of the contractual language of law is presented to us by the lens of the Scriptures here in the West. Okay, if they wanted the restrictions to be placed, they should have put it in the language. The language speaks for itself. We're not allowed to go interpret why they passed this and why they put that language in there. It's not the way that it ever has worked, nor the way that it should work, and I just can't see a case for it. You can say the same thing about Trump being allowed to have a third term. The language has to speak for itself. That's what interpreting the Constitution is. We don't get to argue its intent. And I think that's a bunch of liberal nonsense that make a case to say that it's because we're doing it in order so that we could have slaves be freed, and then they're slaves. That language could have put in there. They knew how sophisticated our enemies are, and they knew how sophisticated the other people amongst their own party were, and where this would take. The states were never united in any topic, especially after the Civil War, okay? So if they wanted this to be different, they should have been more precise in their language. If we want to blame those who passed this amendment, fine, okay, but we don't get to undo it under the idea of citing what their intention is. And I don't know a constitutional attorney in the country that would potentially argue in favor of litigating it this way. And I just think it's disrespectful, because I love the United States I love the United States because I like how delegation of powers and how we can contest things, and 2/3 of a whole thing. It's like decentralization. I like how that works. I think it's a very perfect model. And if we just follow the perfect model, we can make an oopsie and say, hey, the language was too bland, but you do that through a ratification process. You do that by introducing a new amendment.
So then based off of that reasoning, if somebody's visiting here and they have a premature birth that takes place, a woman who is, let's say, 6 months pregnant, and they have a vacation, and they're just thinking that, everything's fine, it's going to be the last time that they fly, everything should be good, and they accidentally go into labor, and they're from, let's say, the UK, and that child that is born here because they had to go to the hospital and they got delivered in the good old US of A.
Too bad.
Does that child, hold on.
Yes. According to the language, yes. According to the language it's written, yes.
No.
Absolutely.
No.
Why not?
The answer is no, because they're not.
Because
they
when the
are
people who wrote this didn't intend
of the other country because their parents are from that other country.
Bro, the language is right there.
You don't think that's ever happened here? You don't think that there's somebody has
it doesn't matter
or unfortunately had a premature birth here in the United States, and that child that was born here wound up not being a United States citizen? You don't think that's never happened?
Guess whose fault that is? Those people that actually voted and put this language into...
But the child never winds up being an American citizen is what I'm saying.
Why not? The language right there that they put in, this very generic language.
Their parents are from another country. They're like, no,
why does it matter?
Not an American citizen. This is our child.
The language
they belong in another country, man.
The language speaks for itself. Who my God? Why do we get to put in the context? Why do we have to? The context of why this was ratified and what the language means back then is irrelevant. The language speaks for itself. It couldn't be any more definitive. All persons born in the United States are subject to the jurisdiction thereof, are
I
citizens
rebuke
of the
that,
United
Matt.
States. Now, what you can critique is perhaps that comma right between therefore and are. All persons born and naturalized in the United States and subject to the jurisdiction thereof, comma, are citizens of the United States. So if they wanted to articulate and create an explanation as to what that comma and are citizens of the United States, in order to further refine and filter in to that this inclusion only includes those people who are already pre-existing as citizens of the United States, then that's fine. I'm not hearing even that rationalization of language. The language speaks for itself. The language in itself is the law. They have to
Okay.
be very specific with the language, and that's all there is to it in my perspective. And
Okay.
these people they don't even care about the Constitution. They keep making the federal government bigger and bigger and bigger. The states keep losing all of their power, and then they want to just go back to it and say, oh, that's not what they meant when they did it. Sorry, that's not the way it works. You want to do that? Do that with the 16th Amendment, which is the Federal Reserve, which they say was never even ratified by 2/3 of the states to begin with, okay? So... can't we always pick our battles?
Well, let me just ask you, what do you think of other countries that maybe have had? You think they're just going to allow America to take their children? Like what happens to that child that was born here in the United States from a premature birth? Okay, and now that because that's an American citizen and they don't have their papers, you can't go. No, that's an American citizen. You can't take that child back to your home. You think that's going to happen? You think that happens?
If their language and their law was so opaque and so unspecific that happened, then that's what law is. Yes, just like in the Bible. Okay, they want to say that all these arguments against homosexuality or for head coverings or anything are cultural and they only apply to their time, and they want to infer, oh, there was actually this Dionysus cult and there was temple prostitution and but. No, the language speaks for itself. It is up to the Lord God who wrote the Bible in order to write the letter specifically enough that because we are held to the letter of the word. And the same thing comes down to the letter of the law as written in the United States. And there's no way you can convince me otherwise, because you try to find a constitutional attorney that doesn't laugh at the very idea that we would be able to reinterpret such specific language. And that's why people are laughing at Trump and laughing at Bannon about the idea that he can have a third term in office. Why? Because his first election was stolen from him. So what? That language needed to be put into the amendment. Maybe the country wasn't full of such liars and thieves back then, where they would assume that this was going to be taken advantage of, manipulated. But that's where we are today, and that's why you should follow the process in order to go and amend it if you feel the language is insufficient. That's what's required, not reinterpreting it and then having more color of law from the Supreme Court.
Well, I mean, but there has been Supreme Court cases that have challenged that ruling for certain circumstances. In the Supreme Court case like United States versus Wong Kim Ark in 1898 clarified that subject to the jurisdiction generally includes anyone born in the U.S. except for narrow categories such as children of foreign diplomats. So if a diplomat, Matt, according to you, was born here in the United States, are they a U.S. citizen?
According to me or according to what's written? According to what's written, yes.
Yes.
If you happen to, because of these idiots who wrote this language the way that it is, all right, and they couldn't forecast that we would become degenerate, satanic pigs, right, 200 years into the future, all right, or 160 years into the future, yes. That means anybody who gets to come over here and they miscarriage, anything that happens whatsoever like that, accidentally, oopsies, now you're a citizen of the United States. That's how it's written. Therefore, that's how it is. You want to undo it? Change it, amend the Constitution. I don't want to have
you foreign diplomat, you can't take your child back to your country.
No, that's up to
They're ours.
Now, hey, if their own Constitution now says that you can't have dual citizenship, and then therefore they're not allowed back into their country, and that's subject to the letter of the law in their own country. Each country is responsible for how they have what's written be understandable in the language of which they speak. Okay, what does the word "is" means is what we're talking about here. It's always been the running joke. What does that comma actually mean? They've actually have tried to argue that the comma there actually is a clause that says that the people who are born in the United States must be citizens of the United States for that to apply. Well, I can read this, guys, and that's not what it means when they're saying it. Okay, they're further reinforcing that anyone born in the United States is now under the laws of the United States. And whether their intention was just to pass that for slavery, too bad, right? You're the ones that created this system in the first place. That we got to live up to it. It's not so difficult to change it. Actually, it is difficult to change it because in our lifetimes, in like 3 of our lifetimes, in 3 generations, we haven't even amended the Constitution of the United States because we're so into the Supreme Court and the big federal government and blah, blah, blah. No, I love the Constitution of the United States. I want to see a bunch of more amendments. I want to see us fight it out. This should take years in order for something like this to be ratified. I want to see more constitutional conventions take place in the United States. Because this is something that becomes permanent that can't just be overturned by the next Supreme Court justice. Okay? That's how it works. It becomes permanent for all time until another 2/3 of the states end up ratifying this thing. And it's the reason why I love this country is because of our system of how we keep the enemies out, but we don't follow our system because we rely on 9 retards that we put into office that right now we're okay with them, but only a couple years ago was a bunch of lib nuts, all right? And then they get to interpret what's written? No. Not down with it.
All right, fair enough, Matt. Okay.
God, we did a long time on that one too.
You win.
Good. All right. Well, let's go to our next thing here, which let's prep this and make it real ready real quick. Okie dokie. So, okay. Well, wonderful. That's
a New York City active shooter, bud.
I don't know why.
You want to go to the DOJ, Chicago DOJ?
That's what was supposed to have happened. Okay. In a significant ruling today, the U.S. District Judge Lindsay C. Jenkins dismissed the Justice Department's lawsuit against Illinois, Chicago, and Cook County regarding their sanctuary policies. The ruling, which took place in Chicago, emphasized that these local policies are federally protected under the 10th Amendment and do not violate federal law. The Justice Department had argued that these sanctuary measures contravened the Supremacy Clause, but Judge Jenkins found insufficient evidence to support the claim of law-breaking. Illinois Governor J.B. Pritzker and Chicago Mayor Brandon Johnson praised the decision, asserting their commitment to protecting immigrant communities. This case is part of a broader pattern as the DOJ has pursued similar lawsuits against other Democratic-led cities, including Los Angeles and New York City. The ruling marks a pivotal moment in the ongoing debate over immigration enforcement and local government. Yes, indeedy.
Yeah, I don't know what to say about that one, man. I don't like sanctuary cities. I think that it's not a good thing. That's all I got to say about that one.
Okay, well, let's go to our next segment here where I wanted to actually contribute a little bit to this here, but Sean Fuchs, which we should learn how to pronounce this guy's voice because he's been in the news ever since Mike Winger started attacking him.
He's been in the news since COVID.
Been in the news since COVID, but been haunting my mind for quite a little bit here. Let's cut to it.